Two brothers and $2 billion. That's what was at stake on 17th November 2012 at a farmhouse in Delhi. The sharp crack of gunfire shattered the still morning at a sprawling farmhouse in Chhatarpur. Billions were on the verge of blowing up. Two brothers stood holding a gun at each other. The very same brothers that once held each other's hands and created an empire. This is the story of their tryst. This is the story of Ponty Chadha. Hi everyone, welcome to the Desi Crime Podcast, a show where we dive deep into some of the craziest cases from around South Asia. I'm your host Aryan.
And I'm Aishwarya.
And the case that I have for you today is from Noida, which tends to be the epicenter for all crimes that take place in India.
Aryan, having lived in and around Noida for the last decade.
Shooting out of Noida right now.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly a decade actually. Ponty Chadha is a name we've all heard of. Whether it's that Wave Mall we all once used to frequent 10 years ago for movies casually, or that gigantic parking structure that's now in front of it, or the Genesis schools where we all have friends and people we know of. Attached to it is this insane story of these two brothers that we all know of, but that's also the extent of what I know. It ends there.
Ponty Chadha is a name that's synonymous with Noida, as you say. But before I get on with the case, Aishwarya, we have a big announcement for you guys. We just announced that Desi Crime will be publishing a book with Pan Macmillan in the summer of 2025. And I'm so excited for you guys to come across it, pre-order it, order it, read it. But something very funny happened when we announced the book. So we have this Instagram broadcast channel called OnlyFams. You can go join it. And we put out a poll a day before the announcement asking, hey guys, we have a big announcement tomorrow. What do you think we're announcing? All the answers in that, I was expecting them to be
about the book
a
or,
case, some, what else could be new merch? But most of the responses to that are a new Whole Truth flavor, a new Whole Truth giveaway, something Whole Truth related. And I'm like,
I love that.
God damn, I think our listeners have started loving the brand more than we love it.
You all have been converted, for sure.
You've been converted.
Yep.
You know who else has been converted?
Who else?
My mom. 2 episodes ago, I told you how I made my mom try the pista badam flavor. The one she said was reminiscent of Kanpur's flavors of the badam milk that she used to have. I think she has developed an addiction, Aishwarya.
Really?
Here's a text that I got from her while I was traveling about how she was mixing it in hot milk, almost like a dessert she had after meal. I'm like, Mom, I couldn't love that more for you.
I love that.
So my mom is a convertee.
Hi, I'm Adam's mom, and he is not holding me hostage to say this, but the Whole Truth protein powder is the cleanest way on the market, with no artificial sweeteners, no added flavors, no bulking or thickening agents. हो गया? वैसे अच्छा है. I am loving it.
And you all can convert your parents into finally hitting that protein goal as well.
Or as Aishwarya likes to say, manipulate them.
Tricking them into finally hitting those macros by going to thewholetruthfoods.com and using code DESI20 at checkout for 20% off these incredible flavors of protein powders.
And with that, back to the episode. Within moments on 17th November, Ponty Chadha, the liquor baron who had built a 20,000 crore or $2.42 billion empire, lay in a pool of blood. But he wasn't the only one. His younger brother Hardeep was also lying there, blood staining the floor around him. A tragic end to a violent, bitter confrontation. What had driven these two brothers, partners once bound by blood and ambition, to such a deadly showdown? What broke the trust between them and led to this tragic end? To understand this, we have to go back. Back to 2010, when the first cracks began to form in their powerful empire. Cracks that would eventually bring them to this moment of unimaginable violence. Ponty Chadha gained widespread recognition for building a vast business empire in liquor distribution through his company, the Wave Group. His business expanded into real estate, media, and hospitality, establishing him as a prominent figure in these sectors. With a fortune exceeding $2 billion, beneath his success lay deepening tensions, especially with his younger brother Hardeep, which eventually spiraled into their tragic confrontation. To understand how their partnership deteriorated, we must first look at the rise of Ponty Chadha, his humble beginnings, his ambitious climb to the top, and the complex relationships that shaped his life. Before the fame, before the power, before the tragedy, Ponty Chadha was just a young boy in Muradabad, Uttar Pradesh with a dream. Born on October 22nd, 1960, Ponty was the eldest of three brothers, Rajinder, fondly called Raju, and Hardeep, also known as Satnam. His story begins with his father, Kulwant Singh Chadha. In 1947, as the partition of India tore families apart, Kulwant migrated from Rawalpindi, now in Pakistan, to Ramnagar in Uttarakhand. Like so many others, he arrived with nothing and took a job at a sugar mill and worked tirelessly to support his family. By the late 1960s, he had secured a liquor license from the Uttar Pradesh government and started his own shop. It was here, in the modest confines of a country liquor store, the Desi liquor store that we all know of, that Ponty's story truly began. As a young boy, Ponty helped his father sell snacks outside the shop, learning early lessons in perseverance and ambition. But the Chadha family didn't stop there. In 1968, Kulwant started a small jaggery mill where Ponty and his brothers worked alongside their father. This was a family that knew the value of hard work. Every drop of sweat shed in that jaggery mill was an investment in a future none of them could have predicted. Fast forward decades ahead to the mid-2000s. Ponty Chadha now wasn't just running a liquor shop, he was reshaping the entire industry. By 2007, Ponty had begun expanding his father's wholesale liquor business across Uttar Pradesh. Within 2 years, his company had achieved something unprecedented. Under the Bahujan Samaj Party, the BSP government led by Mayawati, Ponty was granted exclusive wholesale liquor distribution rights in the whole of UP, which is the most populous state in India.
That is a thing, Aran. I did not know that exclusive individual family-run companies can get individual licenses like that.
It's not a thing in India on whole, but it was a thing very exclusive to UP, where the government at that point sort of created this forced monopoly, right? And you'll find the repercussions of that because liquor industry is one of the highest profit-making industry, which the government gets so many taxes from, and to bestow it entirely to one private party, you can imagine.
That's wild.
Like, I don't know how many people were there in UP at that point, but I'm guessing an absurd
Still a
amount,
lot,
like 300 million. I know it's the same as America's population or something like that. And many of those people drink. You know, we have many alcoholics in our state. Minting money. Minting.
That's crazy. We've always, as a state, I'm from UP and we've been called the Wild Wild West for the longest. I mean, this is this is the Wild Wild West.
This policy that Aishwarya talks about is known as the one state, one company, one distributor excise framework, and it was revolutionary, and Ponty was its sole beneficiary. This monopoly was the first of its kind, giving Ponty full control over the supply of liquor in the state. And it didn't stop there. By 2009, Ponty's empire extended to retail as well, creating a vast network of liquor distribution that spanned across Uttar Pradesh and Punjab and beyond. His influence even reached international markets with distribution networks in Nepal, Bhutan, the United States, UK, several Asian and Arabian countries. Ponty's success in liquor was just the beginning. With the foundation of the Wave Group, he diversified his empire into industries that touched every aspect of modern life. The real estate arm of the Chadha Group, Wave Infratech, transformed urban development in North India, starting with commercial and residential projects in Noida, later expanding to Punjab, Gurgaon and beyond. Ponty's major achievement was Wave City, India's first smart city built in Ghaziabad in collaboration with IBM. Furthermore, his reach extended to mining operations in regions like Bundelkhand and Sonbhadra in UP, solidifying his presence in literally every lucrative sector. Ponty was also a major player in Bollywood, financing and distributing movies that captured the nation's imagination. He diversified further by acquiring 2 teams in an Indian hockey league. But Ponty wasn't just about glitz and glamour. In 2010, his Wave Group secured a government tender to provide midday meals to schools in Uttar Pradesh, an initiative worth 10,000 crore rupees a year. And in the same year, Ponty acquired 5 government auctioned sugar mills, paying a fraction of their market value. Ponty Chadha wasn't just a businessman. He was a kingmaker, a man who knew how to navigate the murky waters of politics to protect and expand his empire. His connections ran deep and his ability to adapt to changing political climates was unparalleled. In Uttar Pradesh, Ponty's influence reached the very top. Under Mayawati's leadership, who was the chief minister at the time, his businesses thrived. The exclusive liquor monopoly, the acquisition of sugar mills at discounted rates, these weren't just business deals. They were the symbiotic result of relationships between Ponty and the BSP, the Bahujan Samaj Party. When the Samajwadi Party returned to power, Ponty didn't flinch. He forged ties with Mulayam Singh Yadav, who inaugurated his Wave malls in Lucknow. He also received concessions to keep his business empire intact. In Punjab, Ponty's grip over the liquor industry was no less impressive. Through strategic auctions, he gained control of the liquor market during Amarinder Singh's tenure as chief minister. His relationships extended to the Akali Dal and Congress, evidenced by the high-profile attendance at his daughter's wedding reception. And in Haryana, the story was the same. Ponty's influence was undeniable. Every major politician worth their name attended the family's events, a testament to his deep-rooted connections. Even Uttarakhand wasn't untouched. Ponty's companies won hydropower projects in 2010, although public interest litigations later led to their cancellation. But Ponty's ability to penetrate even the most resistant markets, as I said, was unmatched. Ponty had built the empire from the ground up, and it was that hard work that turned the family's alcohol distribution network into the largest liquor monopoly in northern India. His influence extended into other sectors, including sand mining and real estate, but all of this had come at a cost. His fractured relationship with his own flesh and blood. As tensions flared, Hardeep, who had always felt overshadowed by his older brother, became increasingly defiant. His need to prove himself, to establish an identity separate from Ponty's shadow, pushed him into a further conflict with his brother. He resented the perception that he was just the other brother while Ponty enjoyed the spotlight. This growing resentment, coupled with the increasing pressure to take control of the family empire, only served to widen the rift. The once strong bond between the brothers had all but disintegrated, replaced by power struggles, betrayal, and a fierce desire to control the legacy that their father had built. By 2012, Ponty Chadha was at the peak of his powers. His companies were generating an absurd annual turnover of 20,000 crore rupees or $2.42 billion. With a vast empire in literally every industry, Ponty had the money, the connections, and the influence to control industries and navigate any obstacle in his path. But there was one challenge he couldn't conquer: his own family. The Chadha family had amassed extraordinary wealth, but among their vast holdings, one property held a significance far beyond its monetary value: the farmhouse at number 42 Central Drive, Chhatarpur, New Delhi. You see, this wasn't just any property. It was a sprawling estate, a marker of their family's rise to prominence and a personal legacy tied to their father Kulwant Singh Chadha. For Ponty, it symbolized not only the family's roots, but also his father's hard work and vision. Hardeep, however, saw it differently. By 2012, he had moved into the farmhouse, claiming it as his own. The sprawling property, valued between 100 and 200 crore rupees, became the flashpoint of the brothers' conflict. Picture this: lush green lawns that seemed to stretch endlessly, manicured gardens surrounding a magnificent white villa, and towering gates that gave the estate an air of exclusivity and power. The main house was grand yet serene, with wide verandas and large windows that overlooked the quiet streets of Chhatarpur. To the Chadha brothers, this was more than real estate. This was their crown jewel of the shared legacy. Hardeep always was wanting to assert his independence and began treating this farmhouse as his fortress. He moved in, redecorating rooms to reflect his taste, and threw extravagant parties where he welcomed high-profile guests.
Okay, Aran, the crown jewel of your empire, the memory of your father, the legacy of your family attached to this one house, I get it. But it's a house.
It's a house.
And you're not a family, they're not a family where another house of that ilk cannot be purchased. That's a problem of people who only have one house which they can never, purchase another kind of. But this is not that family.
Ash, a couple of things. It is kind of that house. It's 100 to 200 crore rupee house in Chhatarpur, where all other high profile people live. It's not that easy to, get all of that land and then build like a palace. They literally had built a palace for themselves. And the second thing was, Ash, these were brothers that if it weren't for the house, they would have found something else. The younger brother would have found something else to fight over. It was, it's about the area you have dominion over, right? And I think he just wanted to express agency in some area of life, and this crown jewel happened to be the one. But I think if they didn't have this house, it would have been some aspect of the company, the coal mines. It could have been anything else.
The house was just what they latched on to.
Yeah, the house is what they latched on to. Hardeep was determined to prove that he was no longer just Ponty's brother. But Ponty, furious at his younger brother's defiance, couldn't stand by as his brother staked his claim. To him, the farmhouse also represented their father's legacy, something that could never be sold or partitioned. When Ponty noticed a for sale sign hanging on the gates of the property, it wasn't just a threat. It was a declaration of war in his mind. Ponty's response was swift. He stationed guards outside the farmhouse, ostensibly to protect the property. But this only escalated tensions. Hardeep felt he was being watched, his every move scrutinized. What had once been a family dispute was now a full-blown siege. The farmhouse at Chhatarpur became a battlefield in every sense of the word. Aishwarya, to me, it literally sounds like the Cuban Missile Crisis, where where Cuba is the same as this farmhouse, and stationing guards outside it to protect it is the same. Right. Like, it sounds so much as war, but in such a sort of smaller Delhi NCR scale. But everything seems like the Cuban Missile Crisis, where it's escalating to something bigger. And if one party doesn't de-escalate it, it will culminate in a tragedy.
That's exactly so well put. It's exactly what it sounds like, with each move trying to one up the other one with no end in sight. Because what is the solution here? Like, other than compromise, there is none.
There's none.
Yeah.
Over the months leading up to the tragic events of November 2012, the property was the site of multiple altercations, arguments, and standoffs. One such incident occurred during a family wedding. Ponty, attending the event with the rest of the family, grew suspicious of Hardeep's intentions after seeing potential buyers visit the property. Hardeep had been actively courting offers, trying to sell the farmhouse for a rumored 150 crore rupees. Ponty was livid. He reportedly told a confidant, quote, "This house isn't just property. It's our father's house. I won't let it go to outsiders," end quote. The tension was palpable during that wedding. Family members tried to mediate, but both brothers left the event fuming. It was clear that the dispute over the farmhouse had become a microcosm of their larger power struggle. By November 15th, the feud over the farmhouse had reached a fever pitch. Family members, desperate to end the strife, persuaded the brothers to meet at a Delhi Gurudwara. There, in the presence of elders and with the blessings of the family's devout Sikh background, the brothers agreed to a second settlement. Ponty would buy Hardeep out of the family business for an amount ranging between 400 crores and 1200 crores, which would also cover Hardeep's claim to the farmhouse. It seemed like peace was within reach, but appearances can be deceiving. The next day, on November 16th, Ponty discovered that Hardeep had annulled the deal. Sources close to the family suggested that Hardeep's advisors had convinced him that his share was worth far more than the agreed sum of almost 1,000 crores. For Ponty, this wasn't just a financial blow, it was a betrayal of trust. The settlement had been made in good faith, but Hardeep's refusal to honor it shattered any remaining hope for reconciliation. Ponty was furious. He immediately called his confidant Sukhdev Namdhari and began planning his next move. But before we dive into the tragic events that followed, let's take a moment to understand who Sukhdev Singh Namdhari was and why Ponty Chadha placed so much trust in this man. Sukhdev Singh Namdhari wasn't just an associate, you see. He was a man whose reputation preceded him. In Uttarakhand, Namdhari was a name that invoked both fear and respect, a man whose influence reached the highest echelons of political power. With deep ties to the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, the RSS, a right-wing organization, and the BJP, the current ruling party of India, Namdhari's political trajectory soared when he was appointed as the state president of the RSS-affiliated Rashtriya Sikh Sangat in 2006. By 2010, his stature was further elevated when he was made the chairman of the Uttarakhand Minorities Commission. But behind this facade of political respectability lay a man driven by greed and ambition, his life shaped by violence. Namdhari grew up in the shadow of rising military militancy in Punjab during the 1980s. The son of a marginal farmer, Roor Singh, from the village of Tali near Baspur, Namdhari was fascinated with guns from an early age. His classmates at Baspur Inter-College nicknamed him Fauji, or the soldier, after his father gifted him a pair of olive green jungle boots in class 9th. Namdhari loved the nickname, and it stuck. However, Namdhari's school years were far from remarkable. He dropped out after failing his class 12th exams in 1985 and began working as a truck driver. Hoping to see his wayward son settle down, Roor Singh purchased Namdhari his first truck in 1987. But Namdhari had other plans. He used that very vehicle gifted to him to smuggle illegally felled kher trees, valuable for their use in the pan masala industry. Despite his truck being impounded twice, Namdhari managed to escape prosecution each time. Namdhari's trucking days were just the beginning. In time, he transitioned to a far more dangerous career as a gun-toting henchman. The role eventually provided him a coveted entry into Uttarakhand's politics. After a brief stint working for Deen Dayal Singh Bhullar, a former Baspur block pramukh or a leader of that area, he became the personal bodyguard of Kashipur Legislative Assembly member Harbhajan Singh Cheema. Cheema, who had significant stakes in local mining operations, needed protection in a land dispute with a dreaded forestry mafia don, also known as Pandit. Namdhari's violent methods proved invaluable to Cheema and marked the start of his rise in the criminal political nexus. Namdhari's partnership with Ponty and Chadha, though, marked the peak of his power. For 16 years, he was Ponty's, quote, enforcer in Uttarakhand, ensuring the business empire's dominance through a mix of influence, intimidation, and violence. His political clout and criminal connections allowed him to operate with impunity, even as allegations of murder and dacoity piled up. A remand application submitted by the Delhi police in Saket Court on December 2, 2012 also revealed Namdhari's startling admissions. Properties in Haldwani, Nainital, Rudrapur were brought in his name, and authorities were investigating reports of Ponty having purchased 2,000 acres of land in South Africa, also in Namdhari's name. Despite his tainted record, however, Namdhari remained untouchable for years, shielded by his ties to influential political leaders. His appointment to the Minorities Commission in 2010 further bolstered his status and offered him protection from accountability. This combination of loyalty, power, and ruthlessness made Namdhari Ponty's go-to man in times of crisis. On the fateful night of November 16, 2012, Ponty called on Namdhari to assemble a group of men and prepare for action. The mission was clear: forcibly seize properties from Hardeep, who now stood firm against the settlement. For Ponty, this was no longer about business. It was personal. Ponty knew that he had to act fast to regain his hold over what was rightfully his, and the stakes were higher than ever before. On November 16, 2012, the night before the tragic events unfolded, Sukhdev, along with his men, including Kulbir Singh and Pargat Singh, arrived in Ghaziabad after midnight. They stayed at a guest house owned by Ponty located in Wave City, Ghaziabad, which was part of Ponty's operations. On the following day, on Saturday, the 17th, after 9:50 am, Ponty convened a meeting of armed men at his family's Chhatarpur mansion on Delhi's southwestern outskirts, where he lived with his mother and both his brothers. In attendance was Namdhari and at least 11 other people. According to charge sheets later filed in a Delhi district court, Ponty divided his and Namdhari's men into two detachments and directed them to storm the contested properties, forcibly evicting anyone present and seizing control, while him and Namdhari stayed back and waited for news. At around 11 am, the scene at farmhouse number 42 at Central Drive in Chhatarpur took a violent turn. Nandlal, one of the staff members at that farmhouse, was inside when he saw a group of 30 or 40 odd men arriving in several cars. These men, led by Namdhari, immediately began breaking down the locks of the farmhouse gate. As the assailants forced their way in, they were heavily armed with firearms, including AK-47 rifles, pistols, revolvers, hockey sticks, dandas, and even swords. To instill fear in the occupants, they fired gunshots into the air. Nandlal watched in terror as the men assaulted the people inside, snatching mobile phones and beating them with hockey sticks, rods, and the swords. At this point, Nandlal was grabbed by Bisht and Anna, two of Ponty's trusted security officers who had been with him for years. They roughly dragged him outside, ordered him into a car, and drove him far away to another farmhouse. Meanwhile, the attackers locked the farmhouse from the outside, securing it under their control. The chaos escalated when Nandlal managed to escape during the assault. As he fled, he could hear gunshots ringing out behind him, though he couldn't confirm if anyone had been hit. Running to safety with his mobile phone, Nandlal quickly alerted Hardeep about the situation. Meanwhile, the assailants began consolidating their hold over the farmhouse. New locks were distributed and cans of black paint were used to obscure a for sale sign that Hardeep had put up, along with a plaque bearing his name. With the gate securely locked, Hardeep, now informed of the attack, raced toward the farmhouse from his office in Noida, determined to confront the intruders. Once the house was locked down, Chadha and Namdhari were called. At 12:30 p.m., they reached the lock rear entrance in a dark green Toyota Land Cruiser. Sachin Tyagi, a 27-year-old Uttarakhand police constable assigned to Namdhari as a personal security officer, was in front next to the driver, strapped with a 9mm carbine rifle. One of Chadda's aides, Narendra Alawat, soon arrived to open the gate. As the attack unfolded, Hardeep Chadha was in Noida. When he learned about the situation, he immediately rushed back to Chhatarpur. Upon reaching the farmhouse at around 11:17 am, Hardeep saw Narendra Alawat, one of the key characters in the operation, trying to break open the gate. According to witness statements, Hardeep sprung out of a car brandishing a pistol and approached Alawat, hurling abuses. Then he shoved Alawat and shot him in the leg. Chadha began to climb out of the Land Cruiser, but Hardeep was now facing him. Hardeep cursed his brother, then pumped 7 shots into his legs, abdomen, back and chest. He then turned towards the open gate. Namdhari leveled his pistol, a .30 caliber that he had licensed illegally using a forged ration card at Hardeep.
Ponty Chadha ji पे गोलियां चली तो मैं उस समय गाड़ी पे साथ मौजूद था उनके.
Tyagi too put Chadda's brother in his sights. Then they opened fire, hitting him twice. A slug that entered through Hardeep's back tore a track through his lungs, filling them with blood before exiting briefly through his right armpit and then boring clean through his arm. Chadda was hemorrhaging wildly, but he was apparently still alive. Namdhari and Tyagi secured him in the Land Cruiser as Hardeep, suffocating with his own blood, took shelter in a guardhouse by the gate where his body was later found. The Land Cruiser then tore off in the direction of Fortis Hospital in Vasant Kunj, with Chadda bleeding out in the back seat. At 1:05 p.m., doctors at the hospital declared him dead on arrival. Within minutes, it was all over. 2 brothers bound by blood and ambition now lay dead on the very property that they had fought so hard to claim. Following the shootings, the police quickly initiated an investigation and filed multiple FIRs, including one based on Nandlal's statement. During the investigation, the police arrested the accused and recovered firearms, call records, and other evidence linking the assailants to the crime. Later, Nandlal recounted these events in a detailed statement to the police, describing the overwhelming force used by the attackers and naming several individuals, including Namdhari, Tyagi, Bisht, and Anna. His testimony proved crucial in piecing together the sequence of the events. When the news broke, it became a media circus. 2 brothers, rivals in life and now united in death, became the talk of all top news channels, also because in Noida were the centers of all these media houses. But this wasn't just a family drama. It was a high-profile case that roped in the Delhi, Uttarakhand and Punjab police. The Delhi Police Crime Branch led the investigation, and let's be honest, it wasn't easy. This was no ordinary crime scene. Witnesses were reluctant, evidence was murky, and the Chadha family's political connections complicated matters further. Early arrests were made, starting with 2 private security officers linked to Ponty. Over time, 21 individuals were charged, including Namdhari. He was brought before a Delhi court where the police accused him of being the main conspirator in the shootout. They claimed he was the one that fired the fatal shot at Hardeep when Hardeep pointed his gun at him. Police also said that Namdhari was involved in vandalizing the farmhouse, looting it, and being part of a larger conspiracy. Namdhari denied these charges, stating that he acted in self-defense and that he was the one who called the police and lodged the FIR after the incident. The police investigation revealed more details, including the recovery of a pistol from Namdhari's residence in Bajpur, Uttarakhand, which they believe was used in the crime. Forensic reports suggested that Hardeep had aimed his gun at Namdhari before being shot. The police also recovered 122 cartridges from Hardeep's Mercedes, further strengthening their case. As the investigation progressed, the police gathered evidence pointing to a deeper conspiracy. They mentioned that Namdhari had been a central figure in helping Ponty take control of the disputed property and in the violence that ensued. They also noted that Namdhari had failed to mention the shooting in his initial FIR and had concealed the weapon. In the final stages of this investigation, a senior police officer revealed crucial details that added new layers to the story. Unlike earlier accounts, this version clarified that Tyagi, one of Namdhari's security guards, did not fire any shots during the confrontation. Ballistic reports confirmed that Hardeep's death was caused by bullets from Namdhari's 30-bore gun, shifting the focus away from earlier assumptions about other participants. The officer also detailed Hardeep's actions upon arriving at the farmhouse. While prior descriptions were vague, this account highlighted how Hardeep shot Ponty's manager, Narendra Elawat, in the feet before confronting his brother. After a warning shot at the vehicle's bonnet, Hardeep escalated the violence by shooting Ponty in the feet, and then in the chest, and then in the stomach. A key difference in this account was Tyagi's warning to Namdhari, urging him to be cautious of Hardeep. But despite the warning, Namdhari made the decision to fire that fatal shot, killing Hardeep Chadha. This detail portrayed Namdhari's actions as more deliberate rather than a spur-of-the-moment reaction. The autopsy findings suggested he was shot from a distance, while Hardeep's wounds indicated he was fired upon at close range. Ballistic evidence and fingerprints recovered from the crime scene raised the possibility of third-party involvement as well. Delhi police had filed 2 charge sheets in the case and leveled murder charges against all the accused. The first charge sheet had named Ponty as an accused as he had reached the place of the incident with Namdhari and others as part of his well-hatched conspiracy to take possession of the South Delhi farmhouse. The supplementary charge sheet had accused Hardeep in the case, saying the probe had shown Ponty was killed by the shot fired at him by his brother. The case went on to the Tisazari court of Delhi in early 2013. The trial was nothing short of a marathon. On January 28, 2014, the trial court had dropped murder charges against all the accused and added the charge of culpable homicide not amounting to murder under section 304 of the IPC against the main alleged conspirator Namdhari and his PSO Sachin Tyagi. The additional sessions judge Vimal Kumar Yadav in the case observed that, quote, Hardeep's appearance at the scene was sudden and unexpected. He fired at Ponty's manager and pumped several bullets into Ponty himself. Namdhari and his PSO acted in the heat of the moment, resulting in Hardeep's death, end quote. On May 15, 2015, on the plea of the police, the High Court had reversed the trial court's decision and directed framing of murder charges against all the 21 accused. The Apex Court had also upheld the High Court's decision. Finally, in 2015, the Delhi Police's crime branch submitted a detailed charge sheet outlining the involvement of 21 individuals in the murder. The charge sheet included over 180 witnesses, witness testimonies, and forensic evidence which were meant to substantiate the prosecution's case and prove the guilt of the accused. Among the accused were several individuals with varying roles, such as the farmhouse guard, an electrician, and a gardener. These individuals were alleged to have been involved in the conspiracy and execution of the murders. While the charge sheet included more than 180 witnesses, the actual examination of these witnesses began after the charge sheet was filed. However, due to delays and the slow pace of proceedings, only about 40 witnesses, mostly police personnel, were examined until 2017. Despite years of court proceedings, there has been no conviction. All 21 accused remain in judicial custody awaiting the trial's conclusion. The trial has been repeatedly delayed due to various procedural challenges, including the transfer of judges and the slow pace of witness examination. Notably, since the case began, the trial has been handled by 6 different judges, creating a lack of continuity and slowing down the process. In August 2016, the first 3 judges were transferred within the span of a single month. Judge Vimal Kumar Yadav, the first judge assigned to this case, was transferred in August 2016. His successor, Judge Ajay Jain, lasted only a week before being replaced. Within the same month, a third judge took over, but he too was transferred within 2 weeks. This instability in the judicial panel significantly delayed the case. Since then, 3 more judges have been appointed in 2016 and 2017, with the current judge ADJ Sunaina Sharma assuming the role in July 2017, following her predecessor's brief tenure of only 4 months. The frequent transfers have had a disruptive effect on the trial, as each new judge must familiarize themselves with the case details, leading to inevitable delays. In legal processes, especially in high-profile cases like these, consistency is key for the efficient and timely progression of a trial. It took a significant toll on the families of the accused. Many have been incarcerated without bail for 5 years, leaving their loved ones in limbo. Anita Mehra, the wife of Mathura Singh, a man who was working as an electrician at the farmhouse on the day of the murder, reflects the emotional and psychological burden. Quote, "The prolonged delay has taken a heavy toll on our family. We don't know how much longer we can hold on." End quote. She believes that her husband will eventually be acquitted, but the uncertain wait has been excruciating for her family. Similarly, another wife of an accused shared her distress about her husband's 5-year imprisonment. Quote, "This is very tiring. My husband has been inside for 5 years. What do I tell my children? Why is their father in prison? End quote. The children of these families, who were once hopeful for their father's early release, now struggle to cope with the prolonged absence of their parents. As it stands, the case remains unsolved, with justice delayed for both Ponty and Hardeep Chadha. The lack of closure continues to raise questions about the efficiency of the legal system in handling high-profile, complex cases. As we try to figure out what exactly happened that day, the different theories about the shootout give us plenty to think about. Theory number 1. The most dramatic of the three, it posits that the Chadha brothers shot each other in a fit of rage. While it captures the chaos of the moment, this theory doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Ponty's severe physical limitations make it unlikely, if not impossible, that he could have handled a gun effectively. The childhood accident that took his left arm and partially incapacitated his right ear made it clear that he wasn't physically capable of firing the shot so accurately. Theory number 2. The second theory points an accusatory finger at Sukhdev Singh Namdhari. The prosecution claims that Namdhari, with his checkered past, fired at Hardeep during the heated confrontation. His motives, as argued by the police, stemmed from loyalty to Ponty and involvement in his brother's long-standing property disputes. Namdhari, on the other hand, has staunchly maintained his innocence, claiming he acted in self-defense after Hardeep allegedly pointed a gun at him. The ballistic reports confirmed that the bullets which killed Ponty and Hardeep came from different weapons, one of which was Namdhari's licensed 30-bore pistol. This evidence lends weight to the theory of Namdhari's involvement. And then we have the last theory, theory number 3, which points towards a motive for the Namdhari family in the killing of Ponty and Hardeep Chadha. The murders could have also been a retaliation for Ponty's involvement in a police raid that severely impacted the Namdhari's family's illegal liquor business. Allegedly triggered by Ponty's actions, the raid damaged their operations and fueled suspicions of betrayal. Perhaps Namdhari got both the brothers killed. In response, it can be speculated that the Namdhari family orchestrated the murder entirely by their own to settle old scores. As we near the end of this complex saga, the unanswered questions surrounding the shootout are hard to ignore. Despite years of investigation, the case still doesn't have a clear verdict, and the court continues to wrestle with tough questions about intent, self-defense, and whether it was all premeditated. What can be said with certainty is this: the Ponty Chadha murder wasn't just about a shootout. It was the culmination of years of bitter family feuds, fueled by ambition, mistrust, and power struggles. The tragedy of the Chadha brothers serves as a stark reminder of how unresolved conflicts can spiral into devastating consequences. For now, we are left with more questions than answers. Was Namdhari a cold-blooded conspirator or a man reacting under duress? Did Ponty's ambitions ultimately cost both brothers their lives? Until the court delivers its final verdict, the case remains a haunting story of greed, betrayal, and loss.
If you like what we do here at Desi Studios and absolutely love what we're wearing today, this is merch you can go buy all for yourself.
You can buy this Desi Crime merch in our YouTube store on the link down below at Kadak Merch. Keep the engines at Desi Studios rolling so we can pay our videographer right behind the camera to make these amazing episodes just for you.